Hey guys, finally I'm getting around to finally wrapping up part 2 and the finale of how my ex ruined 4 total years of my life. I know I made an in-between video and I posted a couple hiking vlogs. I just didn't really have the time to sit down and actually film and edit and finish a video. So maybe it was poor timing on my part on when I filmed part 1, but I'm finally gonna do part 2. And I did myself a favor this time and wrote down some notes because I realized there was a lot of stuff that I left out and a lot of stuff I didn't mention, and at the time I really didn't think were relevant and I wasn't thinking about at the time. So yes, this is part 2 of how my ex, and I'm not talking about Nick, I'm not talking about the guy that you can physically see on my vlogs. I'm talking about my ex-roommate, the one I moved in with, the one I made the vlog about, Stockholm Syndrome, all that stuff you can see on my actual channel. But I wrote down some notes, and something I would like to clarify is he wasn't all bad. He wasn't all bad, and it wasn't like a constant, just 24/7 horrible cycle. I wrote down he helped me with my roommate, and what do I mean by that? Like, my roommate that I moved in with originally turned out not to be the guy that I anticipated him to be. He didn't turn out to be the friend that I thought he was going to be, and he really made me feel uncomfortable and unsafe and unsure about myself. And in that moment, my ex-roommate really stepped in and helped me feel safe and helped me get that guy out of my life and made me feel safer about myself. So I have to give him that. He also helped me with my first job. When I had no idea what I was going to do or how I was going to find a job, he went ahead and he helped me find my very first job. Although it was a temporary summer job, it really did open the doors for me to start my job at McDonald's and eventually to this day become a manager. So I have to give him credit for that, for giving me the motivation to apply for other places and find a new job. I have to admit, I was the one that made the first move. After his original attempt to kiss me, which I rejected at first, and of course he gave me his number, blah blah blah, eventually our first kiss was from me. I decided to kiss him first. Just to clarify that, he didn't like force himself on me prior to like me losing my virginity to him. I made the first move. I kissed him. I really solidified that, hey, I like you, I want to date you kind of thing. So that was my fault. Something I have to give him is he did listen to me when I first started opening up about how I felt about myself, how other guys in my past, such as in high school, mistreated me or took advantage of me. He really listened to me in those aspects of my life, and I was able to open up to him and really start getting some things off my chest that at that age of like 18, fresh out of high school, I really needed to get off my chest because I had to deal with a lot of bullying. I did deal with some sexual harassment. I did deal with, to a point, being sexually taken advantage of, and it was really nice to get all that stuff off my chest, and he helped me in that aspect. He helped me recover. Around when I was 18, I'd say 18 to 19, I decided to get a breast reduction because to me, physically, being bigger built originally, as you could probably tell in my high school vlogs, I was very heavy chested and it sucked. And it was causing a lot of medical issues where I would stop breathing while I was sleeping on my back. And I couldn't work out because I would lose my breath very easily. They were literally crushing my lungs. And make all the jokes you want and whatever, make any sexual joke you want, whatever. I'm probably going to ignore it or delete it. But it was a legitimate medical problem at the time, and I was getting a lot of unnecessary, unwanted attention from guys I didn't even know just because my breasts were bigger. And so I decided to get a breast reduction. I went from a 42 double D to a 36C, and that may seem irrelevant to a lot of guys who have no idea what I'm talking about. To women, it's a huge difference. And now I can breathe, I can fall asleep on my back, I can work out, I can do the things I need to do in my daily life and not have to worry, and I can breathe, and it's nice and lovely. But the recovery of that was very difficult, and I endured a lot of complications from it, including an infection I got post-surgery and it sucked. And he was there for me, and he helped me get the medication I needed, and he was there for me when I couldn't wash myself or I couldn't feed myself or the infection was bad or I was in pain. He was there for me through that. So I have to give him that. Like, there were times where he was very, very good to me, and I have to give him that kind of credit. But leaving off from my last video, after we officially broke up, he decided that it was a better idea if I went home to my mom, and so he bought a plane ticket for me to go back to New Jersey with my mom, and I didn't really agree with that, but at the time I was so intimidated and I felt so crappy about myself that I agreed with it, and I was completely whipped and manipulated. That's all I can say about that. And so I agreed, and so I had 2 weeks, and in that time I vlogged, and I started vlogging again in the 2 weeks that I had left in Minnesota, and those are all on my channel. If you guys want to go check those out, that'd be awesome. And eventually I ended up moving back to New Jersey. And the 8 months that I was there, the first probably 3 months was really, really hard on me, and it kind of sucked. And I was really lonely, and I was really lost, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was heartbroken. I felt worthless, whatever. But things got better back when I was in New Jersey, and around the time, I don't know what date, but I do remember it was when Jurassic World came out. It was like the midnight premiere. Me and my family went to that, and after that, my ex-roommate texted me telling me he wanted me back, he wanted to rekindle our relationship, he was sorry for what he did to me, blah blah blah, and he admitted, like, wholeheartedly that what I said about his ex was right, because right before we broke up, and when I found out he was cheating on me, I warned him that that girl was no good for him, and that she was just going to ruin his life, and that she was crazy. And I never met her before, I never talked to her before. I just had a feeling like girls know about other girls. There's just something we know. And he ended up admitting that he was wrong about that girl, and that I was completely right, and so on and so forth. Again, emotionally kind of sucked my dick, and convinced me to move back in with him, that we could fix everything and that things could go back to the way they were when we first met and whatnot. And so he convinced me to move back. And as soon as I moved back, it was like a 3.5 hour drive home from when he picked me up from the airport. It was like 3 o'clock, 4 in the morning. And somehow he managed to convince me to have sex with him. Yeah. It was kind of uncomfortable or whatever, but I thought maybe I was just holding too much against him and I needed to let it go and just restart. So we had sex or whatever. It was nice, and you know, for the first 2 weeks things were fine, but I did notice that there was a lot of his ex's stuff still in the house. Like notes and letters and things that didn't belong to me or him were still in the house from like when she moved in, which I knew about, that she was living there while I was still in New Jersey, because after he apologized and me and him started rekindling things, I started getting text messages from her telling me to fuck off, and that I was a bitch, and that she was his girlfriend, and that he was hers, and they were getting married, and they were going to have kids, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that should have been a red flag, or the fact that, like, that's the kind of girl she attracts, but I didn't. The first couple of weeks were good. They were like they were when me and him first met. Things felt fresh and new, and it was fine. But then after that, he started getting distant, and things started slowly progressing back to the way we were when me and him first met. And I saw the red flags this time right away, and I started getting very concerned, so I started bringing it up, and it would cause little fights here and there. Nothing good, obviously. And then one day, miraculously, I was scrolling through Instagram, like, I can't even remember why I was doing it. I saw this Instagram of a very beautiful girl, and I clicked on it, and she was holding a sunflower, and she was saying, oh yeah, this guy got me this, and it was at blank's Instagram, and I clicked on the Instagram, and it was my ex-roommate. Apparently he had been cheating on me with another girl and giving her flowers and going on dates with her and stuff like that, and it sucked and it hurt. And I remember going up to him and showing him her Instagram and the photograph, and just being like, why? Again, why? And he ended up admitting that things weren't going to work out and that there was another girl in his life, and it broke my heart again, because I had dropped my job, I had dropped my friends, I had dropped the guy I was with, I had dropped everything to move back. I let go of my job to move back and live with him, to get screwed over like that again, and it really sucked. It really, really sucked. And he admitted that me and him were just downright toxic for each other, and it wasn't going to work out. All we ever do is fight, and things never work out for us, and basically anytime me and him try to have a relationship, it's just a shit show, which I can't disagree with. Every time me and him did try to have a stable relationship, it was a shit show, and we were toxic to each other to a point, so I can't deny that anyway. We also ended up having religious fights because, he believes in God and I believe in God. He's a Christian, I'm a Christian, but, we seem to be two different types of Christian, and things that, his standard of what a woman should be and what a wife should be and what I should be were different than what my phone's blowing up. Were different from what I believed women should be and what I believe a wife should be, and so on and so forth. So we'd get in religious fights and we'd get into political fights, and I'm not a political person. So we got into fights about that, and it just started all going downhill, on top of the fact that he was dating another girl. But in the meantime, while he was still trying to date this girl, he was still trying to sleep with me, which really confused the crap out of me. How could he be loyal to this totally beautiful, perfect, awesome woman, but still try to sleep with me? And then when they broke up, he blamed it on me, saying that I told her things, and I said things that I shouldn't have said, and I said things that weren't my business, and that caused her to break up with him, even though, you can't have a good, healthy relationship based off of lies. Eventually, the other person's going to find out, and, well, boom, there goes your relationship. If you're going to be in a relationship, just be honest up front and loyal from the get-go, and you won't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But while he was with her, he would try to sleep with me, and then whether or not he got me to sleep with him, he would make me feel guilty, whether or not I did or didn't. So either way, it was damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I didn't sleep with him, he'd find a way to make me feel guilty, and if I did, he'd find a way for me to feel guilty about that. There was no way out. And then eventually that girl broke things off with him, and he blamed it on me, saying that I sabotaged his relationship. And then he ended up going away for about 5 or 6 months, and I have to admit, those 5 or 6 months were the first 5 or 6 months where I really felt at peace. I could have the house the way I wanted. My pets were free to roam around the house. They weren't trapped in the basement from his will. I could do whatever I wanted. I never had to worry about messes when I came home from work. Even though the bills were a lot higher because he refused to pay rent while I was gone, even though the bills were higher on me, I was definitely a lot happier and a lot more at peace. And the place stayed cleaner longer. And I just wasn't as stressed out, and things were good, and that's when I winded up meeting Nick, and things were good. But in the meantime, me and him were exchanging letters while he was gone, and he started talking about rekindling our relationship again, which for once I was smart, and I told him it wasn't a good idea and it probably wasn't going to happen. And then I admitted that there was another guy in my life that I was happy with and that was treating me right, and so we ended that. And then, things started to get better with me personally while he was gone, and me and Nick's relationship really blossomed and became something pretty great. But then when I found out that my ex-roommate was coming back, I did feel worried and discouraged and scared, And it really started to affect me and Nick's relationship. Not that it wasn't still good, but Nick could tell that I was really worried that this guy was coming back into my life. And it was for very valid reasons. Like, I was really scared what was going to happen with this guy in my life. And when he came back, I realized I was taking care of most of the house. When he came back, he really stopped cleaning up after himself. He really stopped taking care of dishes and laundry and trash. And if I didn't keep on top of it, if I didn't take out the trash, if I didn't do the dishes, if I didn't move the laundry around, if I didn't, clean up the counter space or clean up the table or sweep or mop, that it wasn't going to get done. And so I felt like I was more of a maid in the house. And when then he found a new girlfriend, and when she moved in, although he was still trying to sleep with me, she wasn't paying any of the bills. So her living there and using the electricity and the water and the heat and the internet was coming out of my paycheck. And that really, really sucked. And then he started getting on me more and more about things that he shouldn't have. And there are certain vlogs, and I will link the specific vlog to the night where he really had me scared shitless. And it really got worse from there. And then when me and Nick broke up, things really, really got bad. Like, even though he was still with this girl, he was still trying to sleep with me. He was still trying to do stuff with me. He was still trying to be unloyal. He was still trying to coerce me into being a certain way with him and rehashing our past, which I didn't even understand because our past wasn't that great. And it just turned into a whole fucking mess. And then there was an instance where, after I came to the conclusion that I was basically paying for his girlfriend to live there, and he must have been saying horrible things about me, because eventually she started treating me different too. And it got to the point where one night, I was doing overnights for about a month straight, and there are vlogs on my channel where I was talking about this, where his girlfriend accidentally let my cats out in the backyard, and I almost lost my cats. And after that, I drew the line, like, you're fucking with me, you're ruining my life, but now you're about to take the only thing away from me that makes me happy. And I drew the line there, and I started looking for a new place to live. Not that I hadn't been previously, because I just couldn't find a place. And luckily enough, after that instance, my coworker was looking for a new roommate because she had broken up with her boyfriend, and he moved out and there was a spare room, so that's how I ended up here. And I'm very grateful for that, and I'm definitely a different person. I'm much happier, and I'm much more at peace than I was, because frankly, talking about all this, back in that time when it was relevant and it was happening and I was still living there, I guarantee you I would be in tears. I would be crying, I'd be freaking out, I'd be cursing, I'd be so upset, but now I can talk about it and I'm actually at peace. Like, it doesn't really bother me that bad. But I mainly just wanted to talk about it because, I started something, I gotta finish it. So yeah, this is part 2 and the finale of how my ex ruined 2 years of my life. If I forget anything, I might make an update video, but it's not guaranteed. So until then, I will see you guys in the next one. I'm pretty tired. I've had a long day and I'd like to just enjoy the rest of my night and relax.